There it is, the crypto trade. Welcome back to Fast Money. 6 crypto CEOs on Capitol Hill today, testifying as regulators seek to understand things like stablecoins, other digital assets. Stellar was the only blockchain network invited to this particular hearing, as you can see there. And Danelle Dixon, the CEO of the Stellar Development Foundation, testified today, and she joins us now. Danelle, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Fast Money on CNBC. We appreciate it. Can you basically take us through what was the substance of the actual conversation that you and these other CEOs had with these lawmakers? What was the biggest concern? What were the things that you were trying to answer?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Today was a really good day. I think it was one of the first times that we as an industry really engaged with regulators and policymakers very directly so that we could actually share information and have really good conversation back and forth. Today there was a lot of focus on stablecoins, particularly the USD-backed stablecoins, and there was focus on whether or not there should be statutory language that should be put around that to create more regulation that could be focused specifically on how stablecoins should hold their reserves and how transparent they need to be with what their reserves are. So that was a big focus. There was also just a lot of information and education around how blockchain works, what happens with respect to 2 of the CEOs were from trading platforms, and so talking about the trading platforms and consumer protection. There was a lot of information. It was a 5-hour hearing, so it was really a lot of exchange there.
Hey, Danelle, Jeff Mills, thanks for being on the show. Just some questions about the use cases. I think that's really important and probably what a lot of those folks want to hear about. Thinking about Stellar in particular, I own some Lumens in my own personal Coinbase account. I just think it's extremely interesting in terms of what it can facilitate relative to payments. So maybe walk us through some of the use cases for the folks out there.
Yeah, one of the most important things that I wanted to do today was sort of change the narrative, because there's so much always focus on what's the promise of blockchain, and we really wanted to be focused on what is actually happening today with respect to blockchain. And I highlighted 3 particular use cases. I think one of them that is active and available today is Leaf Global. Leaf is actually focused on refugees and on cross-border folks who have to cross the border with goods, and the ability to be able to put their money and their value into digital assets and to carry that across border where they're very, very vulnerable as they cross the border. It's a really important use case. Once they actually get across the border, they can then leverage those digital assets to make payments, to be able to pay any bills that they have, or to be able to send value and send money to others. So that particular wallet, Leaf Global, provides a really interesting use case that's really focused on problems that are focused locally in Africa, where their product is mostly used. So that is just one use case. There are others. I think Tala is one of the ones I talked about that's in development, and they're already due. They have credit that you can actually apply to get credit on Tala for these small micro loans, and they give you a response right away. So now they're moving in to be able to build some of this on Stellar so that they can use the Stellar assets and use stablecoins in particular to be able to provide these services to their consumers. So it's a pretty awesome, when you focus on the use cases and you talk about what's actually happening and and the value of blockchain, it makes it really hard to walk away from it.
Hi, it's Steve Grasso. So what would you say your biggest headwind is? Is it ignorance on the use cases, to Jeff's point, that most of the public and politicians don't really understand how to use it? Or is it adoption, or are they both hand in hand?
I think that I won't use the word ignorance. I'll say that I think the challenge is the lack of education. And I think that's part of industry, actually, that we haven't done the best job educating, and we focus so much on the technology stack and not enough on the use case and what actually can be done with this technology. And so I think that we need to be better at explaining what actually is happening and can happen, and to encourage policymakers to focus on, don't regulate too early with respect to this. Let's move ourselves to get to a place where we let this grow and let this flourish a bit, and we're going to see what shakes out. And that's what we did in the early days of the web. There was a lot of good hesitancy and resistance to regulation in the early days of the web, and I think that we need to sort of have that same thing now. And I think in terms of adoption, one of the challenges that I think with adoption for blockchain generally is the on and off ramps have always been really hard. because you either need to have a bank account or a credit card to be able to get onto blockchain and to leverage it. But we have this great partnership now on the network with MoneyGram International, and that's going to allow folks to walk into a MoneyGram location and take their fiat in, so they don't have to have bank accounts. They can convert it to digital assets on wallets that are Stellar enabled, and then utilize those assets in whichever way they choose to. And the same for an off-ramp. So that's like a really good step, transformational for the network, and frankly for blockchain, because it demonstrates the value of that interoperability between the traditional financial system and these new rails.
Danelle, before we let you go, most of us here and even watching will never be in front of a Senate or House committee or panel testifying or having to explain something. Can you take us through what the biggest, I guess, gap was in terms of lawmakers, what their perception of cryptocurrencies and that industry is, and what exactly can be done to maybe make that regulatory environment more collaborative with your chief executives in the business?
Yeah, I think today was an awesome start. Just to start that conversation, it was a very public way. There was a lot of good dialogue. One of the things that I felt a lot today was there was this collapse of crypto and blockchain. And frankly, those are, crypto is on blockchain, but blockchain is infrastructure and underlying technology. That's going to happen in these kinds of discussions, and I think that's okay. But I do think there needs to be a want on both sides. The industry needs to want to share, and policymakers need to want to listen. And I feel like today we really headed in that direction. We had a really good opportunity to start that conversation. And I felt awesome coming out of it that we're going to actually see a lot more of this. So I think that, we've historically not been able to get there, and today we did.
All right, Danelle Dixon at Stellar. Thank you very much, and good luck to you with the rest of the education campaign, if you will, with regard to cryptocurrencies. We appreciate it. All right, guys, let's trade it, because we've heard a lot about the differences, blockchain versus the coins and tokens themselves. Maybe, again, Guy, we'll go to you with this one here first. Let's talk about whether or not it's really just about Bitcoin, or are there other places we go to try to find some of that real outperformance?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, the obvious place is the first derivative, but go downstream a little bit, and I'll say Palantir has been a very difficult stock to own, and over the last month, you've had a lot of analysts downgrade the stock, $19 price targets. It's trading there now, but they're just starting to see news that, they're talking about their crypto. They have a crypto security platform that I don't think the market fully comprehends, and they'll be at the forefront of that. And if, in fact, that is the case, which I think it will be, this stock should be significantly higher. So I get all the crypto plays. I think if you want to look downstream, look at Palantir.
All right, that's the stock side of things. Tim Seymour, anything on your radar with regard to the coins and tokens themselves, or another derivative play on them?
Well, first, yeah, I'm going to say a couple things, and I'm going to extend Guy's reference to the police. I mean, crypto and blockchain right now are the spirits in the material world, and having the folks down on the Hill have these types of, sometimes they are clumsy, but ultimately this is about regulation. This is a $2 trillion industry. You have to have regulation around it. That will bring higher prices, believe it or not. It's actually a very good thing, and as awkward as these moments sometimes seem, and we've had a lot of fun on Fast Money when there have just been, .com type investigations or even discussions into things like the metaverse. But this is very good news. When you look at the relative value trade within, call it the cryptocurrencies or the platforms, what we're clearly seeing is moving down the curve. And, the story of this year, it's Ethereum over Bitcoin, but how about Solana over Ethereum? I mean, Solana up, 11,000% or something on a 1 year, year-over-year basis. So that's where the trade is getting very exciting, because I think a lot of investors, while drawn into some of these extraordinary moves, and not just 10 baggers, but absurd moves, exciting, and a lot of stuff out there that really needs to be kicked a lot harder under the hood. But the good news here is this is a broadening asset class with use cases that Danelle talked about today. This isn't just about speculation.